Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living. Barely getting by. It's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it.
All right. So as we take a look at that particular video, let me just ask you a question. I mean, how many people in this room have ever felt the way you saw depicted in that video? Anyone? Yes? A little bit? Well, the fact is, over half of us in the workplace today, according to a survey by Mercer, over half of us are considered unhappy in the workplace. And to go even one step further, 32% of us in the workplace are actively looking for a different job, and 21% of us, well, we don't talk very positive about our current employer. So why is this the case? We are living in a workplace culture crisis in many respects. And work doesn't have to be the way. And we can talk about this until the cows come home, literally, or we can do something about it. And that's what I like to do, is to talk with my audiences, my groups, your groups, and to help explain what we can actually do, small measures that we can take to have a huge impact. Because whether you're a leader or an individual contributor, it doesn't matter. We all have and make an impact. We make an impact whether it's positive or whether it's negative, but we do create an impact. So what I would like to do, as I do with my audiences, is that I usually share 3 or 5 strategies, depending on the length of the keynote. So today I'm going to share one strategy with you that I think will help to take your idea of the workplace culture and look at it just a little bit differently. So the idea that I have in terms of a strategy for action-focused, results-oriented strategies would be this: to really look at demonstrating a holy cow workplace so that when you walk into the workplace, you actually feel like, holy cow, this is an amazing place to work. And one strategy with which to help each of us do that is to not only adapt to change, but really try to embrace the change or the setback that you may be involved in. So let me give you an example. Early on in my career, I worked for Anchor Food Products. You probably may not know that company, but they were the inventor of the jalapeno popper, as you probably would have guessed. Most of us have consumed 1 or 2 of those. Well, I was a customer service manager when I worked for them. And I really loved my job, really enjoyed it. But the problem was I felt most alive when I had the ability to actually sit down and work one-on-one with the individuals to really help them get better at their jobs. So I approached the VP of HR, asked her, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we hired a corporate trainer? And she said, yeah, I think that's a really great idea. Write up a job description, write up a 5-year plan, and let's take a look at it. So we did just that. And over the course of time, it was about 4 weeks later, I met with her, we sat down, and she loved the idea. And I thought, this is great, right? So as fate would have it, you know, they had to then roll that job description out to everyone in the company and as well as externally. So now you all probably know when you interview for a job and you kind of suck at it, right? You kind of know that feeling. But on the flip side, you also know when you really rock at it, right? You know. And I, of course, I should have, right? But I did rock at it that time. And I felt so positive about the interview. So about 3 weeks later, it goes by, and we see an intercompany email come across, and I'm so excited to open it up, ready to engage and be happy, and it wasn't me. It wasn't me. And I thought to myself, how did Mary get that job? Why was it her? So the phone rings, and it's HR, and you gotta love the order, don't you? They called me in, I sat down with them, and learned very quickly that obviously Mary was much more qualified than I was for the job. But interestingly, they threw me a little bone. They said, what if we gave you a different opportunity, one on a much smaller scale? You'd report into Mary, but here's the caveat. I said, what's that? See, you have to, well, show Mary the ropes. Yeah, the knife goes in deeper, right? And I thought to myself, okay, well, I left for the day, and you always love that news on a Friday afternoon. They told me I had to come in on Monday with my answer. So Monday morning comes, and I walk through the doors after much deliberation and consideration over the weekend, and I said I proudly accept the role of this training position. And I was happy for the opportunity, but I also knew within a year my plan was to leave and take my expertise elsewhere. Well, I will tell you, I have never, ever, ever in my life learned so much from one person as I did from Mary. See, she took me under her wing, taught me everything that she could. She has a doctorate in what she does. Phenomenally smart, intelligent, very influential, and connected me with so many amazing resources and people. So much so that after only a year and a half of training experience, no leadership experience, the company was bought out. 95% of the office staff lost their jobs, including me. And only 7 weeks later, I landed a corporate learning and development director job at an insurance company in that same city, not needing to relocate. I was over 600 people in terms of helping them to continue to learn and grow, as well as, 3 years later, also had the agency staff under the umbrella. Why do I tell you that story? Because that boulder, yes, landed in my lap from the standpoint of how I could have looked at that situation could have been dramatically different. And had I not taken that opportunity and instead walked away from it, like many of us probably would have at least wanted to do and perhaps would have done, my life would be different today. It's not the tough stuff that does us in, because we all face tough stuff. And in our companies, we face changes and challenges. We heard the prior speaker just talk about that, because innovation is that key component for change. But when we are needing to help our teams and help our entire employee base move through changes, being able to not resist it but adapt to it is absolutely pivotal. But it's how we look at that. So it's not the tough stuff that does us in, rather, it's our reaction to the tough stuff. And how we view things through our mind really can make a difference. In fact, I'd like you to do something with me. I'd like you to take a moment and look around the room and spot all those things that you can with your eyes that are the color red, and try to remember them. All those things that you can see in the room that are the color red. Try to remember each and every one to the best of your ability. All right, all eyes right here. Who can tell me 3 things? 3 things. Who can tell me 3 things that are the color blue? Oh. I know. It was a bit of a gotcha moment. But here's the point. We see what we're looking for. Are you looking for the positive things in your life or the negative things in your life? Because what you focus on will become your reality. Similarly, who you hang with, you become. If you're going to hang with the people that are pessimistic, negative, Debbie Downers, pessimistic Pauls, horrible Hanks, you get it, right? you're probably going to emulate some of those types of traits. However, if you hang with people that are successful, driven, innovative, upbeat, successful, well, guess what? Some of those traits are also going to rub off on you. So who you hang with, you become, and focus in on hanging with the right teams inside your organizations if you truly want to have a workplace that has a positive, holy cow culture. Now, as you adapt to those changes, those ever changes, did you know, according to a recent study, 86% of workplace failures occur because of two things. First, lack of collaboration, and second, ineffective communication. So I would like to demonstrate ineffective communication, what it means for each and every one of us as we try to positively influence our organizations, especially when they're moving through times of change. And here's the point that I'm making. We have to look at communication and communicate what our message is, communicate it what we do mean, as well as what we don't mean. Let me illustrate. In a moment, I'm going to show you 12 words on the PowerPoint slide. I'm going to ask you to take 15 seconds and memorize the 12 words. I'm then going to blank the screen and ask you to recall as many of those words as you can in writing. So grab your pen, have it ready. But for the next 15 seconds, I'm just going to ask you to memorize these words. Ready, set, begin. Please write. Usually, by this time, no matter how much you try, whatever's in your short-term memory recall is on the paper. But if anybody wants more time, just raise your hand. Okay. What I'd like us to do is to count up the number of words that you did write down. How many got, by show of hands, at least 7? Woo-hoo! You are average. Yeah. It's just the way it is. Recalling 12 words, 7, average. Okay, numbers are not important. Let's take a look at the words you wrote down, okay? So by show of hands, who wrote down the word bed? Arms nice and high, look around the room. All right, excellent, hands down. Bed is the first word in the list. It represents first impressions. We remember what is communicated first. So make sure that during times of change, if you want that culture to continue to propel forward in a positive way, that you communicate what you mean, how you mean it, and what is communicated first will be remembered. Second word, look at your list, please. Who wrote the word eat? Raise your hand nice and high. Eat. Look around the room. All right, excellent. The word eat represents a word in the middle of the list. It also represents a word that is vastly different from the other words on the list. Eat had nothing to do with any of the other words, which really means when you communicate differently in unique ways, it will be remembered. So make sure that when you do that, it is done in a positive light. Okay, who wrote down, by a show of hands, the word sleep? Nice and high, look around the room. Where is that word? Where the heck is that word? Yeah, it's exactly the same list. But my point to you is this. We have to be able to communicate not only what we do mean, but also what we don't mean. Why? Because otherwise, you will see words within a relationship of other words and draw your own conclusions. This is when perceptions become truths. This is when viewpoints or opinions become absolute, 100% certain reality. This is when water cooler talk becomes absolute reality. So we know that we face tough stuff in the workplaces. We know we face challenges constantly and setbacks. But when we do, we can overcome that adversity. We can do so by working through numerous strategies that I like to share with groups. Whether it's an inspirational keynote talk or whether it's a training workshop, I have 4 primary keynote speeches that I have, as well as a vast list of workshop topics that I would love to engage your groups with. Because if we can do that together, we will certainly make a difference in the workplaces with which we work at and those that we support. Horrible workplaces, they absolutely exist without a question. Manure happens. Yes, it does. But I encourage you to take the bull by the horns and you make the change happen one small step at a time, and you will see how your workplace, as well as those that you work with, can truly become an amazing place that more employees enjoy. Thank you.
Tracy Butz, everyone.